All right, we are back. So I told y'all that we want to start scripting this in, and we're going to click on player head. We're going to start with 0, 0. Now on my board, I have 0, 0 equals regular, 0, 1 equals blink, 0, 2 equals take damage, and 0, 3 equals smile. So we can actually see that down here, but the main reason why I have it on my board, because that tells me every single fourth one should be the same. So this is regular, this is regular, this is regular. Every single time it goes on sections of 4, it's regular, but there's more damage done. And the transformation is plus 24. So right here, we have 24. And then every fourth one, so this should be 28. And then 32. So every time I'm going through these, this is why I set them up like this, so I can use numbers to tell it, this is what I want. So we're actually going to come into scripts. And this will be a bar HUD script. We're going to call it C#, and we're going to call it player portrait script. So this wonderful script right here is going to have to call the player health to be able to know what its health is at. We could also take the player health script right here and call this script as well, and I think that would actually be a better way to do it. So we're going to say public void set portrait. So there's going to be a lot that is going on here, and we also need to be using Unity engine.ui because we're going to have an image that we are calling. We can also set this as a game object. I don't really feel comfortable doing that because that is what a game object would do. Is we have, let's see, character with head. It would be a lot easier just because I haven't worked with images. In fact, I might actually end up doing that. I think I will end up doing that. We're going to need, looks like 49 different game objects. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. This is 2. I'm actually going to do this real quick, so I'm going to show you an easy way of doing this. This will be 0, because that's where our player head starts off as, a 0. And then we're just going to go all the way down, 49, I believe. There we go. And now we just need to set the head to these, and this way it'll actually change. All of these will be an array. So the health bar circle will have this script. I'm going to throw the script on there real quick. Player portrait. And we have the player portrait right here, so this is fine. But this script will have a serialized field, and the serialized field will be of type game object as an array, and this will be called player head. And so the way that this is going to work is it's going to check to see what the health is, and it's just going to simply activate the player head and deactivate the rest of them. So I'm going to set all these up by simply, like, if this is 0, well, this needs to be 0. If this is 1, well, this needs to be 1. So I go into UI sprites. I'll put 1 right here. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to pause the video, and I'll come right back to it. And we are back. So 48 and 49 is basically just God mode. We can look right here, so that's God regular, that is correct. And the rest of these are 47, 46, 45, 44, all the way up. We're just making sure that these are counting properly. And they look like they are. So yeah, I am happy with that. Okay, so we're actually going to select all of these. We're going to deactivate them. Click on health bar circle. We'll come back into our script. So we have this right here. We want to do a check. And we're also going to have an update in this. Purpose of the update is she will blink. And that's literally the only reason for the update, is to create this blink state. So that means we're going to have a private float. This will be time to blink. So is what we're going to do is we're actually going to say if, wait a minute, we need to say time to blink will minus equal time dot delta time. We're going to say if time to blink is less than or equal to 0, then what are we going to do? Well, we're going to blink. We're also going to need to create a private void, and this will be called reset timer. This will take time to blink will equal random.range, and this will be between let's just say 2 seconds, and we'll say 5 seconds. That should be fine. We're just going to give this a starting value of 2. And so if it's less than or equal to 0, we're going to say this is where we need the ints. So we also need to create a private int, and this will be called set, or can't call it set portrait. It'll be set game object. And so it will take this array list and set it in here. So for this is what we need to do is we'll need to say for int I equals 0. Took me a second to figure out what I was going to type. Int I equals 0, and I is less than player head dot length. And we'll say I plus plus. And right here is what we need to do is we need to switch it between 0 and 1. So we'll start off as 0. So we'll say player head, and this will be I dot set active. You need to set all of them false first, and we'll say player head 01 dot set active true. So as what we're doing is we're getting the entire array length, and we are setting all of them inactive except for 01, which 01 is blink. So then we're going to come in here and we're going to say plus set game object. How does set game object work? Well, that's actually a very good question. We're going to we actually need to create a public int, or actually if he changes as float, you know what, int should be fine. Would be fine for now. Public int health. So we're going to say if health is greater than 90, then set game object equals 0. Else if health is less than 90 and it is also greater than 70, set game object equals, and I told you every 4, so we're going to say 4. And so if that is 1, 2, 3, 4, actually I think when you set it as 5, no, because if we're at regular, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So yeah, it is going to be 4. Else if, this is where we just keep creating a series of else ifs. So we want to say, I actually want to make note of this. If it's less than 90, so 89. If it's greater than 90, basically 91. There's nothing here to specify for 90. So we're going to say if health is greater than or equal to 90. If health is greater than or equal to 70. If health is less than 70, and it is also greater than 50. I don't know how many states we create, so let's come back into Krita real quick, and we will take a look at that. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 6. So we need to do this within 6 steps. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then 30. So that's going to be 30. We can do 20, and we'll do anything less than 10. So that's the way we'll do it. I'm just going to copy this else if statement and start pasting the crap in it. So that's 30, 20, 10. And this will just be straight up if health is less than 10. So we said 20 and 30. And all these need to be equal to. But now we have one issue right here. Nothing is specifying for anything that's less than 20. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if health is less than 20. So as soon as health is less than 20, like 19 or lower, then this is where we're going to play the final frames. So we're going to paste all of these here. This is going to be 8, 12, 16, and 20. So then it's kind of like question, but Jimmy, what about whenever the player transforms? That's actually a very good question. This is where we create another, we need to create a public bool has transformed. And we're going to say if has transformed equals false, then all this will be encompassed in here. And then we'll actually just create an else statement. Control C, else, Control V. We're going to say 24. This will be 28. Or actually is what we could do. This is going to be an easier way of doing it. Just add 24 to these. So Control C, Control V, Control V, and just paste that all the way down the list. So this should be 48, and I believe it's either 24 or 23. We'll have to figure it out here in just a second. So the reason why I'm creating these as public, so this way, one, I'm actually going to use the player health to call this, and two, I can actually edit it directly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create another bool, and this will be called public bool, or actually, so I can just do this off the transform and the health. If I'm just going to create one bool, public bool check portrait. And so I'm going to say if check portrait is true, then we're going to set portrait. So once I check this, I can edit these values and check it and make sure everything's working. So we have this up here, and this is actually, this will work just fine. But then we actually, we're going to make it where it lasts for just a split second, and then we want to do this. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to say enumerator. I'm going to have yield return new, wait 4 seconds. I'm just going to say 0.3f. So we'll see her blink. Actually, I'm going to set that to 0.2. We'll see her blink, and then it will set whichever frame she's back on to whatever it was. And I think, let's see, we're at 14 minutes. I'm going to pause the video here, and I'll be right back, and then I'm going to show you how to do that. Boy, that's what I get for drinking so much Diet Cola on Halloween. Okay, so I was setting this up. So yeah, we were actually setting this. We're setting this as active, and we're setting the blink to be true. And so what I want to do is I actually need to set this doing the same thing. Control C. And so I'm actually going to paste that in here. I need to get rid of that. And the reason why I need to get rid of that, because all this is going to be inside the for loop. The reason why this needs to be inside the for loop, well, I guess this part doesn't. Yeah, I guess technically it doesn't. So that can actually stay right there. So I'm actually going to set this like this. I will set all of them false, and then I'll do that. But I don't want this here because I want her eyes to stay shut for that 0.2, and then it'll say time to blink, random range, and it'll come back up here and reset. So she'll blink every 2 to 5 seconds, and her blink will only be 2 seconds long. So that should work just fine. I'm going to save this, and let's go ahead and test it out, shall we? Moment of truth to see if Jimmy still has it or not. I'll also have to populate this portrait script. So I'm going to select this, or actually I need to lock this up here so it doesn't change. I'm going to select all of these, drag these bad boys in here. There we go. And health I'm going to set at 100. We should have 50, okay. So we can unlock that. We're going to hit play. So we're going to wait for a little bit. There's the blink. And she's staying at a blink. So she's not getting out of the blink. And the reason why she's not, I just now realized this, I don't have anything calling the start coroutine here. So after this, after she sets that, we're going to say start coroutine. We're going to say reset timer. Now that will work. This is why we always double check our scripts. Let's hit play. She should do a quick blink. We'll see how that looks. Beautiful. I'm going to set her health to 89. Check portrait. Okay, that seems to be working. Set to 79. Check portrait. I guess it was 69. Okay, there we go. Let's do 49. Beautiful. Let's do 39. No, 29. Okay, that looks good. We'll then do 19. We'll do 10. I could have sworn I did something on her ear. There it is. Okay, so it just takes a second. It has to still load up. Let's go ahead and do a transformed. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and do 100. We'll check portrait. So that is working. So it looks like I did the math correctly. If we set this to 89, we do a check portrait. There we go. So the reason why these are coming in after the blink, I have no idea. But is what we can do is we can come into the script and take a look. So we have this, which is set portrait. So as soon as we check that, it should come in here and set this. But instead we have to wait for her to blink. Question is, why is that? I know exactly why that is. So we need to take this, Control C, because it is setting all this like we want it to. But we need to come down here on the bottom of this, because this will set the values. And we'll have this for loop right here. And now, whenever we do this, it should set it to whatever we're setting it to. Like, it will be instantaneous. So I'm going to set this to 10. Instant. Awesome. I'm going to click has transformed. Excellent. And then now that we have that, is what we need to do is we actually need to create one more if statement. So we have this up here. If we actually need to come up and create a new if statement. So we're going to create one more, or actually we don't even need to create it, we'll just tack it onto here, which we won't do check portrait, we'll do has transformed God mode. So I need to find my if statement right here. If God mode. Then is what we're going to do is we're going to say set game object. No, it's not set game object. What was it? Player head. So we'll say player head, and we're going to, I believe it's 49, I think, set active true. I think it's 49. Yeah, 49. Okay, because 49 is transformed. And the only issue with this is it'll actually conflict with this. So we actually need to take this, and we're actually going to say, up here we're going to say if God mode. We're going to compass it in this. So as long as this is false, then it'll run this. Otherwise, it'll just ignore it. And we also need to do the same for here. We're going to say if God mode. And we'll actually tell it to ignore the timer as well, since we're ignoring the blink. But that'll actually come into a problem, so now we can't do it that way, as much as I wish we could. And we'll do it one more time down here. If God mode. There we go. So we'll always check this to do a return time to see when it can blink, but it will never change the portrait outside of where it's at. So now that we have done that, we will simply come in here. I'm actually going to tack it down here. We're going to say if God mode. Then we're going to set all of them active, or all of them inactive. Control C, Control V. And we're just going to do that. And we're going to need to create two if statements. If has transformed. Let's go ahead and make this as false. If it has transformed, then we'll say player head. And this will be number 48. 48.setActive true. I do need to do the swirly brackets. That is required. And then this one will be 49. False. Else. Select these two, copy and paste them. This will be false. This will be true. Save. So now we should be able to click on God mode, and no matter what we set the health to, it should stay the same. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select God mode, check portrait, beautiful, has transformed, beautiful. I'm going to set this to 20, check portrait, beautiful. So let me do uncheck transformed, excellent. So all of those are now working. Next thing we need to do is have the scripts talk to each other. This part's going to be, well, I guess it won't be too bad because we're just going to drag the player into the circle bar thing right here. So yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. Let me go ahead and collapse that. And we're going to create a new serialized field. I'm actually going to create underneath this. Player health, pH. And we're going to say pH equals pH.getComponent. This is player health. And is what we want to do. Wait, was this getting the... Let me think about this for a second, you guys. No, we're not calling the player health. Yeah, we weren't going to call the player health from here. The player health will actually call this script. That's what it was. So we're going to create a new serialized field, player portrait script, PPS. We're going to say PPS equals PPS dot get component, player portrait script. And inside of here, we need to actually call set portrait every single time we do something. Well, not every single time we do something, just when we take damage. So we're going to say PPS dot set portrait. And then actually, you know what? That should be fine. That should be all we need to do, because we're going to take damage, and we can also do, like, right now we're doing we just enter a number for damage. If we're doing a health pickup, we can just enter a negative value inside the player of movement script, so it'll give it health, and then it'll set the portrait. So that should be fine. All this should be fine. But now one thing we want to say is inside the transformation, if we have transformed, we're going to say PPS dot has transformed equals true, and we'll say PPS dot set portrait. And then if we're getting out of the transformation, we're going to say PPS dot has transformed equals false. PPS dot set portrait. There we go. So now let's go ahead and well, first we need to click on the player health, and down here we actually need to drag the, where is it? Right here, which is the health bar circle. There we go. So let's go ahead and transform the player. And we have blinking, so that's a plus. And boom, she transforms. So let's go ahead and start taking damage from this enemy and set that up next. So let's click on, well, first we need to come in here and look at the player movement script. So we have enemy, this is what we need to tag it as. And we're going to click on Chompy, come up here, untag. Do we have enemy? No, we don't. So let's add a tag. Add, paste, save, come back to Chompy, tag, enemy. So let's start playing the game. So we won't see the take damage face, but we will see it. Okay, so she is... The reason why she's not taking damage, because for the player portrait, we're not calling health. So for player health, we actually need to come in here and, where is the take damage? So we're actually going to say PPS dot health will equal our current health. And so now she should, in fact, instead of doing it that way, I'm actually just going to start doing dash a bunch of times. And that should represent enough for taking damage. So I can definitely see the marks getting put on her face. Beautiful. That is good. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is for the player portrait, we want her to, every time she takes damage, we want to display that. We're going to use this code in here to be able to do that. Which, obviously, if she's in God mode, she won't do that, but you get the idea. So we're going to create a public void. We're actually going to do, let me think how I want to do this. So I'm actually going to say take damage. And we're going to say for, you know what, instead of doing all that, I'm just going to copy it because I'm lazy. Okay, so we decided that for her taking damage is O2. So the set game object, we just have to say O2. And this will do that. So then we need to say start coroutine, and we'll say done damage. And so underneath this, we're going to say a numerator. We'll call this done damage, yield, return new, wait 4 seconds, and let's just say 0.6f. We may end up making that 1 second, I don't know. But then we're going to take this, Control C, Control V. We're actually going to set all these false, and or better yet, we'll just come back to set portrait. That'd be a lot easier to do. So what about, yeah, because she'll take damage and the set game object will be set according to what her health is. So that should be fine. And so what about smile? She needs to smile. Well, when will she smile? She'll smile every time she encounters a power-up. Which means what? Well, that means that we need to call the player movement as well. So I'm going to come into player health because I don't feel like typing anymore. I'm going to take this line, player movement, Control V. So now we are calling that, and we'll say player portrait script. We're going to say public void. This will be smile. So is what we're going to do is the exact same thing as right here. Control C, Control V. Earlier I said smile is 3, so I'm going to change this to a 3. Done smile. And we're going to create an IE enumerator. Done smile. And we're literally going to just take this in here, Control C, Control V, but I'm actually going to make this 1 second. And so now we have smile and take damage. So if we come back into player health, we have this up here, and we're going to say, oh, let me go into player movement, which I need that script anyway, so no biggie. Let's come back up here to start. And then we're going to come down here. If it's enemy, we're going to say PPS dot take damage. And if it's, let's see, this is going to be the power-up, so we're going to say PPS dot smile. Control C, we're going to do it for attack. We're going to do it for double jump power up. We're going to do it for dash. Boy, that's a lot to take in. So the next thing we want to do is inside our player health, if we're taking damage, anytime we take damage, we're going to, where is take damage? Here we go. We're setting the health and that, but we also need to say PPS dot take damage. Because we're doing it there, we actually don't even need it in the player movement, now that I think about it, so that can go away. The reason why, because we're actually calling it here, so once it's called in here, it'll be called here, and then that way it'll be called in here. So let's go ahead and attach this script to the player movement script and make sure it is working. So essentially is what should happen. She should grab a power up, and we should see her smile. So let's go ahead and hit play. And I actually need to click back on the health bar circle. So she smiles. Let's go ahead and set her health to 70. She smiles. Oh, I didn't do check portrait. So she smiled for a split second, then she went right back to normal. That's fine for the time being. Check portrait. There we go. Alright, so that's working just fine. Let's go ahead and test the take damage. Okay, so apparently I screwed something up because she is not doing the take damage. So let's see what's going on with this, shall we? We have player health. We have take damage. Inside here, take damage is 2. So let's verify I got this correct. So take damage is definitely 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so these are definitely set correctly. Huh. I got a bug that I am actually struggling to figure out. Let's see. Why is she not taking damage? I am actually going to set this at a kind of a high number. Because as long as the health is going down, she should be making some kind of facial expression. I know it's getting called. So it's definitely getting called, but she's not. Yeah, so she's just going into a blink state. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm actually kind of puzzled about this. Let's see. Or actually, I'm just going to do it right here. We're going to say debug.log. We're going to actually make sure that we're taking damage. Player head equals. And we're going to say player head I. So the reason why I'm getting this is because I'm actually outside this for loop. So let me go ahead and put this back inside of here. There we go. And so we're going to see active in hierarchy. I'm trying to think out how I can do this. I'm thinking, guys, give me a second. Let me just check the API scripting. So let's see. Where's the... So we have GameObject.name. Yeah, that ain't working. I already know this won't work because this is an array. Ew. So you know what? I'm just going to do a check to see if this is even... Or I guess I could just do I and see if we get whatever it is, 2 in increments of 4. I don't know why I didn't think about that. So let's go ahead and hit play, and we're going to take damage from this little bastard. Alright, so player head, so it's definitely calling it. It's calling all of them, actually. It's not what I need. But it is getting called, so that is a plus. We know it's getting called. It's just not setting it as active, which the smile sets active. That's the part that I find really, really weird, is that we can pick up a power-up and it'll use the smile animation. So there she is right there. Let me go and set her health to 50. Check portrait. So yeah, she does a smile animation no matter what. 20. Check portrait. Okay, she didn't do it there, but she did do it there for a split second. That is really, really weird on why. Because it's being called in here. I can see it every time it's being called, but it's not setting that active, and I don't understand why. That is odd. I know it's not O1 because O1 is blink. Yeah, O1 is blink. O3 is smile. O2 should be take damage. So let me come into the project. I'm going to take a look at that. Did I save it? I did save it. Okay. Project. So that's blink, and O2 is definitely take damage. I'm actually going to say if player head O2 plus set game object dot, let's see, dot active and hierarchy is true, we're going to say time dot time scale equals 0. So as soon as that's set active, whichever one it is, it will pause the game. You know, that's actually something I forgot to double check on Jaren's script. No offense, Jaren. Gotta double check it. Oh, he did do it. Nope, not quite. So I can still do an input, but that's actually kind of like on me. No biggie. He did really good setting that to 0, though. Okay, so that's what's going on. We are never actually setting this to 0. So it's never actually setting this one as active like it should. Because if it did, you would see that. And I don't understand why it's not. I am literally just... Oh. That's why. Wow, Jimmy, you are a dumbass. Okay, is what was going on is it was taking damage and then it was setting the portrait. So it would set the portrait to take damage, and then on that exact same frame, it'd say, oh, nope, don't worry about taking damage, just set the portrait. So we will see now that she will take damage. If only I spent a little bit more time in that script. Man, she can get some height sometimes. There we go, look at that. She takes damage, yay. So now we can come back here when we're done with the damage. I'm going to say 0.6. So she'll close her eyes for a split second, and then she'll open her eyes back up. So let's go and hit play. We'll test it out. Make sure it's working. And I know it's not something that's like super important to do. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh yeah, look at that. She is taking damage. She's doing the animation. That is excellent. Awesome. So that took a little longer than expected. I apologize, but we now have a working portrait that we can actually see the character expressions in. Till next time, I'll see y'all later.